Sometimes I have to refresh it. Come. Ah,
I think
I got an ad about
It gave you an ad.
forest fires.
Why is it not showing?
Interesting. I don't really get those in Florida. It's too wet.
Plus, it's
Which is
winter
good.
right now.
Well, it's supposed to be winter. It's
Yeah.
about 90 degrees Fahrenheit, which is like, it's around like 35 Celsius or something.
There we go.
Oh, we did have snow 2 days ago, but it only lasted for like 2 hours, and then the sun came through and it was all gone again.
I want snow so bad, but I have a swamp.
We are live, everyone. Everyone in the chat, say hello to our guest for the very first time coming on, Monster Maze.
Hello, everyone.
This is episode 184 of the Hylian Gamescast, I believe. Today we're going to be talking about Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, all of the Mario Day announcements coming up, some of the Pokemon Presents announcements that came, and talk a little bit about Monster Maze and his YouTube channel, which everyone should go and check out. I believe there is a link in the description below. So for those who may not be familiar with your channel, what kind of content or videos can they find over there?
I usually try to upload about twice per month, sometimes less, sometimes more, depending on how busy I am, how big the project itself is. I tend to describe it as more like a small little mini documentary. I try to put a lot of like production value behind it, as opposed to being like really smart with my theories.
Yeah, the one thing that I have noticed about your channel that kind of separates it, gives it its own touches away from all the other Zelda content that's out there, is it seems like the production quality that you have in your videos are really high. Like even in your last video where you're just showing the one clip, you're not just showing the clip or slowing it down. It's like the camera's moving through the video track.
Oh yeah.
Scenes
But that comes from my past experience as an animator. I used to be a freelancer, like a corporate animator, before I started my channel. Even during my channel, I was still doing it. It's not until about like the middle of last year that I started really going full time with the YouTube stuff. But yeah, that obviously benefited me because I could use the skills I already had. For like I've been animating since I was like 16. One of my first animations I've ever made was a fight between Link and Dark Link, which used to be hosted on Newgrounds. That was my best viewed video, like animation I've ever done. I think it was like 300K views, which for that time was like, it might as well have been like 300 million, because the internet was not as big back then as it is now.
What was it that made you decide to start making Zelda videos on your channel?
Zelda has kind of been one of those consistent factors that has always been with me ever since I discovered it. Like I've had a lot of hobbies over over the course of my life, like playing guitar, skateboarding, so many different types of interests that all kind of faded away at some point just because of, just losing interest, I guess. And Zelda has always stuck with me no matter what. I never got tired of it. It was like one of those few things that I just kept carrying with me, and throughout all the phases of my life, I still enjoyed it. Plus, before I started my own channel, I was an editor for Commonwealth Realm for Conrad.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, that's how I kind of got started in the whole YouTube space, because of his working with him. It kind of introduced me to how YouTube works and how feasible it is to actually live off of YouTube. So I did that for about 8 months, I think. And then at some point, COVID hit, and all my corporate animation jobs were just left in the dust, because most of the animations I do are based on like events and ad campaigns, and a lot of those got canceled because, when we were not allowed to have concerts anymore, or even sports matches were all canceled. So my workload suddenly fell away like very quickly. And that's when I thought, you know what, I've always wanted to do my own videos. And now that I've become accustomed to how YouTube works, why not give it a shot myself? And that's how it kind of got started.
And it clearly worked out.
Yeah. Yeah, I still cannot believe how fast it all went.
Yeah, I'm glad that you were able to put all that experience you had to work. I wasn't quite as advanced as you are with your editing, but before my channel went to Zelda, it was mainly just a channel to goof off and have fun with for my music and skate videos. So whenever you mentioned that you used to play music and skate, the similarities kind of made me think back to when I started my channel as well.
Well, you were also like the part of the original Zelda creators, like one of the first on the platform, like you, HMK, Conrad. I remember watching the Chamber of Sages back in the day.
Oh yeah.
So long ago.
Yeah.
At the past 2 E3s, we always tried to make a habit of hanging out or at least getting dinner with each other. And then whatever fans or friends are also there, usually we invite them to. There's a wonderful picture of a group of 12 or 15 or more of us standing there, and it's all of us together and a bunch of people that were there to see us, and it was one of my favorite pictures. Sadly, HMK wasn't there. I think he was there, but just not with the group.
Not
he had
in
his own
picture.
thing that he had to do, yeah.
Still really cool, though.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But for all we know, HMK could just be like a secret ninja that doesn't really... So,
he's a character.
yeah. It's impossible to have that much hype. I said it.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, Giovanni's great, too. I love his content.
So, Tears of the Kingdom. We've talked about it a lot before. I moved my hand over like I'm pointing towards Geek, but she's not here. She's digital. Anyways.
Yes.
We haven't heard your overall thoughts on Tears of the Kingdom. What was your experience like with Breath of the Wild? And did you think Tears of the Kingdom, or Breath of the Wild 2, as it was known at the time, would take off in the direction that it is now?
Oh, I think something went wrong.
Okay, now we can hear you. It was blank for a while.
Oh, I thought the question was geared towards.
Oh no, it
Geek.
was meant for you.
Oh, sorry, I misunderstood.
They've heard enough from me.
There we go. We've had our first.
Yeah, there we go. No, I was trying to say Geek.
First technical error.
I was trying to say Geek and I have shared our thoughts with everyone listening before on Tears of the Kingdom and everything, and I'm sure they would like to hear your thoughts as well. So.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, I never really expected them to do a full-on sequel, even though they did talk about like DLC ideas that they had left over, but usually, as most of the people know, they don't really do direct sequels that much. And Breath of the Wild kind of seemed like it was going to be like a new direction, and they did set some things up at the end where it's like, oh, Varuta stopped working, and I can no longer feel my powers, all that kind of stuff. But I thought it was just going to be DLC, which it originally was. There was going to be a third DLC pack. But to go back to the exact same Hyrule, because even Majora's Mask, while it is a direct sequel, at least it went to a different land and with a new conflict, new villains, and all that kind of stuff. So I was quite surprised to see them going for a actual sequel with the same characters in the same world, all that kind of stuff. And I'm happy that they did it, because I do have to be honest, in the beginning, like when it first started to get traction, like, hey, there's a sequel on the way and all that kind of stuff, I was a little bit on the fence about it, because I was like, how are you going to entertain people enough to revisit this world that we've already explored so extensively? How are you going to turn that into something that will work as a sequel without it feeling like DLC or without it feeling too much of the same? But But then I also thought to myself, well, usually whenever you get like all these secrets and all these, as a theorist, especially if you get these secrets and these mysteries that are never answered, they just move on to the next game and that's it. And you're never going to get the answers aside from speculation and theories and all that kind of jazz. So this might be the first time we actually get the chance to revisit this world and get answers to questions that were never answered. Stuff like the 8th heroine and the Makar Island, and I don't know, just name any location in Hyrule that's never been explained. There's a lot of them. So I'm very thrilled to go back to that world, and now that we know that there's like islands and there's probably going to be stuff on the ground too, I'm not too worried anymore at all about what we're going to see, and they will make it work. I'm certain of that.
Is there anything specific that you would love for Nintendo to actually show us, or like a question that you have that you would like solved more than any others? From
Well, of
Tears
course,
the
the
Kingdom?
ZOEY. The ZOEY are a big one. I've always been intrigued by those because, again, never explained, we never got an answer to who these people were, and there's a very good chance that we will finally. I already mentioned the 8th heroine. That's also always been a mystery that really captured me, where I was like, well, what does it mean? Why is it here? What is the story behind it? Why is the sword up on the mountain, but the statue is like almost as if they never finished it? Like, what happened? Because the other statues say 7 sages, so there's an 8th sage that's been forgotten to time, and I think those are probably the 2 biggest ones for me. Of course, there's many others, like I said, Makar Island, and why the Master Sword suddenly feels like it's weaker or breaking, and what happened to the Triforce. I really want to know why the Triforce was mostly absent in Breath of the Wild, which I'm actually working on a video about that very subject right now.
Hopefully people can look forward to that as well. I think there's a lot of questions for Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah.
Geek, do you have any specific questions that you would like to have answered?
Oh, yeah. Probably, I would want to say roughly the same. I've always been a big story person. I mean, that's the whole reason I got into Zelda, because youngest of 3, 2 older brothers, fat chance I was getting to play the games. I just had to watch. And to be honest, I stunk at them too. So I more than once messed up my brother's saved files. So I understand why they didn't want me to play. So I got into it for the story and the music. So for me, it's getting those other questions answered, like, well, why does Zelda feel like her powers have waned a little bit? And what is that going to mean for the future? Biggest one to me is the fact, just that first trailer with mummified Ganondorf, just like, what is happening? How long has he been down there? Is this the same Ganondorf from, Ocarina of Time branching out into other ones? I'm all about the story. And then I kind of wince and become a wimp when it comes to bosses and such. So everyone's like, yeah, I can't wait for harder enemies. And I'm like, no, the trauma. That's what makes a good game, but it's also what makes me freaked out. But it's good for live streams, I guess. That's why I have a compilation of me freaking out in Ocarina of Time, even though I've played it since I was 3.
One with a dead hand.
Yeah, I can't do dead hand. But yeah, I'm excited to see what this means for Ganondorf. Just, again, from that very first trailer, it's like, why is he down there? What happened? It just tells you that this whole story behind Breath of the Wild was a lot darker than we ever imagined it to be.
Yeah, and I guess also the timeline placement is a big one too, that I'd like to know, like, how maybe they'll never answer that part. They're just going to leave it up in the middle, somewhere in the middle, I mean. So,
yeah.
But
because the most they've addressed is like, oh, it's at the end of everything. And we're like, so Dragon Break?
Yeah. It's like, it's so far in the future that any other timeline basically doesn't matter anymore. It just fused
Which sounds like
together,
such a Nintendo answer.
It does, yeah. I think it's the same reason why they came up with the downfall timeline. They kind of just didn't really know how to fit some of the games, and they created this dumping ground for all the other stories.
It's fair.
Yeah. I mean, some people like the downfall timeline concept. I'm not a big fan of it personally.
Yeah, I feel like it's a bit of a cop-out as well. But
because you could apply that to any game.
Yeah.
Link could die in any game.
Yeah, why does only Ocarina of Time get the privilege of a timeline split from failure? If any, you can die in any game for that matter.
Especially if I'm playing it, then we're gonna die a level.
Yeah, the child timeline and adult one, they always made sense because we visually see two worlds. One where Zelda is an adult and she lives her life there, and young Link goes back to the past, back to his former self. So that one always made perfect sense to me, even as a kid. I understand that concept, but I think it all stems from not to blame the game because it's a great game, but A Link to the Past just has a very hard time fitting in with anything. Like if you read the backstory for A Link to the Past, they are so clearly trying to tie it into Ocarina of Time. But if you read the original manual, there's so many inconsistencies. A lot of things just don't make sense at all. Even A Link Between Worlds, its sister game almost in the same world, has trouble connecting to its own predecessor.
Yeah, they had...
Which is funny, because like the timeline is like, they did that to appease us. And we're still not appeased.
I think
it still doesn't answer it.
The funniest thing they did with the timeline in any games is with Triforce Heroes. Whenever it first came out, they said that it wasn't a sequel to it, to A Link Between Worlds, that it was its own spin-off like side game, that it wasn't meant for the timeline. But then I think because it wasn't selling so well, they came out and said that it was a sequel to A Link Between Worlds. And I think they literally just did that to try to make people think like, oh, well, I guess this game does count. I do need to go get it.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
There's a lot of weird stuff going on in that story. Because the backstory to A Link Between Worlds describes the events from Ocarina of Time. They're like, Ganon was sealed by the seven sages and all that stuff with help of the hero. It's like, wait, isn't this supposed to be the timeline where they failed, or at least Link died and all that stuff? He got the full Triforce, but now Ganon is sealed with the Triforce of Power, even though he was killed in A Link to the Past, and Link used the full Triforce to revert all the damage he's done. How did he get the Triforce of Power again? Maybe the Oracle games, the true ending of that does explain it a little bit, but I'm still not so sure, to be honest. It's a bit of a mess, whereas the other two timelines are mostly consistent, maybe with the exception of Four Swords Adventures. But
yeah, I remember
I do like that game.
There was they originally wanted Four Swords Adventures to be like a sequel to, I forgot which game it was. It was either like Minish Cap or A Link to the Past or something. But then, whoever, I guess Aonuma, whoever was in charge, made them not have it directly connected or connect so much to another game's plot. They wanted it to just kind of be its own thing instead of a continuation. And then they ended up putting it after Twilight Princess anyway, which was in a completely different timeline than they were intending the game. So,
I think it's because of the existence of Ganondorf. They kind of had to explain why he's there. If it was just Vaati as the main villain, it could have fit anywhere after Minish Cap. But because Ganon is suddenly back and he's like reincarnated as Ganondorf, not as Ganon, but as the actual human Ganondorf, and then transforms into Ganon, they kind of had to come up with a way where, well, then it has to either take place after, I guess, Wind Waker or Twilight Princess, because those are the only games where he's back to human Ganondorf again. You know, in the Downfall timeline, he's always Ganon. He's never gone back to being human.
Yeah, I thought we'll circle back around to Zelda and Tears of the Kingdom before we end things, but before we get to the first piece of news, Mario Day announcements. I originally thought that Breath of the Wild was going to be the game that Nintendo used to explain the downfall timeline with, because before the game actually released, we only knew that it took place like after Ocarina of Time, and then the Link somehow in this game somehow failed or something and needed to be resurrected. That's exactly what the downfall timeline started as. So I always thought that this Link was maybe the hero of time didn't die, but maybe he got knocked out or something, kind of like what happened in Breath of the Wild anyways, and he needed to be revived somehow. And this was that Link from Ocarina of Time, and this was explaining that whole backstory or whatever, but it ended up being like, nope, it's just 10,000 plus years in the future. Don't worry about it. So
yeah, probably way longer than that. 10,000 years ago is like when the first or the last calamity before that happened, where they fought him with like the robot wars, basically. Is what I tend to call it. But Ganondorf being sealed and all that kind of stuff, the Zonai, that's all like tens of thousands of years before that, or at least that's how it's described. So it's crazy.
Almost makes me a sympathy for Ganondorf if he's been sealed that long. Almost.
Yeah, he's a patient man.
He's a patient man.
It's like, that's a long time to be sealed.
He's just playing solitaire by himself.
Well, he is projecting himself in the form of Calamity Ganon, so he's not totally bored. He's still wreaking havoc above ground.
And even made plans for 10,000 years. They're going to use the robots again? Fat chance.
I can barely plan a week ahead. I don't know how he does it.
He's pretty brilliant.
Our
smart.
first piece of news here, and again, I know people in the chat love when we just get sidetracked talking about Zelda, and we will continue talking about Zelda, and we'll answer some of your questions at the end as well. But I wanted to get through some of this news, or at least one or two things from it. But the leaked Mario Switch that people had pictures of from a week or so ago. We mentioned it on last week's podcast. Turns out it was actually real. And it comes with a Mario Deluxe, Mario Odyssey, and Mario Kart 8. Oh no, you get to choose one, not all of them.
Right.
My bad. Sorry about that, people. I guess Nintendo just loves their money too much. With all the announcements, a list here is Nintendo Switch Mario Choose One Bundle. Make every day a Mario Day with a Nintendo Switch system. We already covered that. It's the red Joy-Cons. I'm not too excited about it, but you get to pick your own game, so I guess that's nice. But I think they've already had consoles or systems with Mario Kart and Deluxe before. And I'm sure they've had with Odyssey. So there's nothing too special there for people. But they have the next 8 courses that are part of Wave 4 of the Booster Course Pass DLC are coming to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe on March 9th. The newly added Fruit Cup and Boomerang Cups are composed of Tour and Amsterdam Drift, GBA Riverside Park, Wii Donkey Kong Summit Yoshi's Island, which is making its Mario Kart debut. Okay. They didn't have a space there. I thought it was like Cartaboo.
I thought that too. I was like, wait a minute.
Tour Bangkok Rush, DS Mario Circuit, GameCube Waluigi Stadium, and Tour Singapore Speedway. And a new playable character, Birdo, will also be added to the game in this wave of the DLC. GameStop in-store Mario event celebrate at select GameStop locations on March 11th from noon to 4 p.m. local time to continue making every day a Mario Day. Play games featuring Mario and friends. So I wonder if they're going to have people dressed up as like in the Mario costumes, scaring little kids.
I hope not here. It'd be too hot for that.
Yeah. Save on select Mario games. Celebrate. So there's a bunch of games that are on discounts as well. Mario and Friends retail sale, March 5th through 11th. Fans will also be able to head to select retailers to save up to $20 on games. Mario World, Super Nintendo World opening. Today, all Mario fans have been waiting for is finally here. Super Nintendo World at Universal Studios Hollywood is officially open to the public. At Super Nintendo World, guests can battle Team Bowser and Mario Kart Bowser's Challenge Ride. On a trip to Super Nintendo World, My Nintendo wants to send you to Super Nintendo World at Universal Studios Hollywood on March 10th until April 25th. Head to Nintendo.com to enter Super Nintendo World Family Fun sweepstakes. And I think the last is Play Nintendo Fun. Kids can also join in on the Mario Fun today and every day with activities and videos. Play Nintendo. Alright, so yeah, they got a bunch of cool stuff planned, some giveaways, nice trip, and then something very odd, to me at least, that kind of goes against what Nintendo usually does with delaying stuff. Apparently the Mario movie was moved ahead of schedule instead of
Yeah.
I forgot what the date was. I remember seeing it
I think some speculate that it may have had something to do with European holidays, like Good Friday. I don't know if they have that in the US too, but it's like a religious, I think Christian.
Yeah.
holiday.
We don't really do much for it unless you are religious like me, but actually a lot of the schools are out on Good Friday, funny enough, which is weird.
Yeah, it's
okay.
Super Mario movie is moving from April 7th to April 5th in the US and in more than 60 markets around the world. The movie hits theaters in additional markets in April and May, with Japan opening April 28th. It's odd that Japan is having to wait when it's their thing. But I guess it'll take a little bit longer to do the localization stuff for Japan.
Yeah. Makes sense.
And then this really isn't news, but I thought it was a bit interesting. And of course they would say this, but with the new Metroid Prime remaster out, one of the artists basically says they hope to work on Metroid Prime 2 and 3 remastered as well. And again, I think that's kind of an obvious thing, because do work on one series, then you would hope that you would continue working on that series. And even if they were currently working on it or already had finished it, even, they wouldn't really come out and tell you that they were. So when you ask someone, hey, would you like to work on this, or are you going to be working on this, and they're like, oh, well, we don't know, because legally they can't say that. That's basically the best answer that you're going to get, is like, oh, I hope we can work on it someday. Like with Tantalus, when they were working on Skyward Sword after Twilight Princess, and all the times that they were asked, and 𝗷𝗎𝗆 always being like, oh no, that would be great, but we don't think that would be possible on the Wii without motion controls. And then it turns out that's exactly what they were doing.
Yeah. I think they might not do it to the same extent as Prime, because 2 and 3 are on newer systems, so they won't have to change as much. Plus they have the engine now, so I think it will be less work for them to do the same thing with 2 and 3. I mean, like, we won't see the same night and day difference between the original Prime and the new one, because it is pretty damn impressive what they've been able to do.
Yeah, they updated, I think I read that every texture and model was redone and recolored and made to look in high def, and they have the new lighting and everything as well.
Yeah, they specifically focused on lighting, because textures, they can only do so much. The Switch won't be able to deal with 4K textures like you would on a PC, because there have been like fan versions of like emulated versions where they touched up all the graphics, but those go quite a bit further. But the lighting in the new Metroid Prime is actually really impressive, and it plays to the strength and also the weakness of the Switch itself. It just shows how much of a difference lighting can make in a game.
Yeah.
There's a lot of mods and stuff whenever people, well, actually, even with Breath of the Wild, if you play the 𝗬𝗵𝗲 emulator and you have global illumination added in with ray tracing and everything, it looks almost like you'd be playing it on a Nintendo Switch 2 or a PlayStation 5 or something, instead of it emulating a Wii U, which kind of makes me sad, because seeing that, it's like, oh, well, I hope the sequel looks something close to this, but then the sequel, it does look a lot better than Breath of the Wild. The level of detail and
The draw distance.
the draw distance and everything seems to be a lot better. But it's still like, oh, I see what it could look like. But working on the Switch, they are limited as opposed to a $1,000 gaming PC that someone could have.
Yeah, I doubt it will run at 60 FPS.
Geek, did you watch the Pokemon Presents?
I skimmed through it.
You skimmed through it?
My friend who doesn't know, my experience with Pokemon is limited, although it's been coming up a lot when I teach dance recently, because now word is spreading that, oh my gosh, this dance teacher is older than Pokemon. Apparently that's a big deal to my 5-year-old students, that I'm that old.
That's the best
like,
insult
bro, I'm
I've
not
ever
even
heard.
30, but thanks. But I did watch my brothers play Red and Blue, and I played Yellow only because I wanted to travel with Pikachu. Played a lot of side games like Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2 and Pokemon Snap, and then the new Pokemon Snap. And I know we're going to be getting the Stadium games, and I'm very excited for that. But until Sword and Shield, I hadn't really played much, so I haven't been playing a ton of Pokemon, and I didn't pick up Arceus, whichever you prefer, and I didn't end up picking up Scarlet or Violet, but I did skim through the Pokemon Direct. It felt, I don't want to be mean, because I feel like I've been harsh towards Pokemon lately, like, oh, they should have delayed Scarlet and Violet. It wasn't as technically strong as it needed to be. It was actually like technically bad in a lot of areas. Not like the game itself. I heard the game itself was good. It's just, it was glitching out. Or like textures, something like that. But it wasn't a very exciting present. And that might be because I'm not ingrained into Pokemon that much. Probably the most disturbing thing to me, I don't know why, was that little Pikachu animatronic they had throughout the present. I don't know why the eyes were really creepy to me, and like it would make sounds every now and again, and I'm like, get this demon Pikachu off my screen. I don't know why it looked creepy to me. It didn't seem like there was a ton. It almost felt like, oh my gosh, here's a Pokemon Presents. It went by and it was like, what do you think? And you're like, wait, did something happen? I'm not quite sure. Trying to think if there's anything that really stood out to me. They did the World Championships, the Trading Card Game Classic. I have friends that play that. Pokemon Concierge looked weird to me. I don't know. It's because I watched the old Pokemon anime up until I think Irish joined, and her character was just very annoying to me, so I stopped watching. I'm kind of I like the original characters, but you can't keep the same thing forever, and I get that. So this new thing looked kind of weird, but it didn't look bad. I'm glad they're trying something different. Pokemon Unite, Pokemon Cafe Remix, Pokemon Masters EX. I was just confused by a lot of it. Pokemon Sleep. The thing that stood out to me about that is like there's some device you have that they say when you bring it with you, if you're playing Pokemon Go, it'll automatically stop at Pokestops for you, and it'll automatically throw Pokeballs for you. And I'm thinking, then why would you play if it's just going to do it for you? I thought the whole point of Pokemon Go was to get you to go out and do things. I mean, I remember the days of being like, Mom, slow down the car. I got to get this Pokestop. And now it's like, it'll just do it for me. Or that's Pokemon Go Plus. Excuse me. That's not Pokemon Sleep. Whatever they had for Pokemon Sleep, though, it was, I love the voice actress for Pikachu. She's great. But having her try to do like ASMR Pikachu sounds, I don't think it worked. It's just, that's what it sounded like with for Pokemon Sleep. It was like you will be woken up by Pokemon or something, and it was like Pikachu making these really soft Pikachu, and I was like, this just sounds disturbing. There's probably an audience for it, but I'm not it. Terror Raids, DLC. Yeah, I feel bad. I feel like I'm harping on it a lot, but I just don't play Pokemon that much anymore. It definitely, and it could just be me, But I feel like it's not just me. I feel like Pokemon, they're not doing as much as they could be. And maybe it's because they know they're going to break bank no matter what. Because I think most of their income, I could be totally wrong on this, comes from merchandising. So it's almost like they don't even have to try as hard with the games. I wish they would, because I like the old Pokemon. But yeah, I skimmed through it. I wasn't into anything per se. I was mostly just creeped out by the animatronic Pikachu and its dead doll eyes. And ASMR Pikachu, God bless the voice actor. She tried. She probably didn't like doing it for all I know. She was probably like, why am I doing this? This sounds weird. And yeah, that's all I got out of it.
I don't think you're being controversial though, because even though I haven't seen it myself, it seems the general consensus is that it was quite underwhelming and a bit weird. And yeah, people have been saying the same thing for a long time. They earn so much money from the merchandising. They don't have to try as much as some other franchises would.
Yep.
Yeah, they so to wrap up, because I know there are a lot of people that do like Pokemon that listen to it, so to quickly try to cover everything, there is the Pokemon World Championships 2023 that they announced. After appearing in London, they're going to Japan, battles in the trading card game Pokemon Go and Pokemon Unite. Pokemon Trading Card Game Classic. A brand new card package based on the original trading card game is set to be revealed at the World Championship. Pokemon Concierge? The stop motion
Concierge
Pokemon.
Is how I pronounced it, but
yeah, it's a stop motion Pokemon movie or series. Yeah, series coming to Netflix. Pokemon Unite gets Zacian. I don't know how to pronounce that.
Zacian, I think.
Alongside announcing that the game has now passed 100 million downloads, the Present Showcase has also revealed that that Pokemon will be joining Pokemon Unite soon. Possesses the Unite Attack Sovereign Sword. There's Pokemon Cafe Remix, Pokemon Masters EX, new trainers from the Galar region, and Pokemon Sleep, whatever that thing is. And then the Pokemon Go Plus, I guess it's a new model of the Go Plus thing, because I think they used to have one anyways.
Yeah, that's the thing where it's gonna like do the Pokestops for you and throw Pokeballs for you, and I'm like, that defeats the point of Pokemon Go, I think.
Yeah, Pokemon Go Plus, the game that plays itself. It's like, okay.
Right? And why would I bother?
I'm also very confused about the Pokemon Concierge. That's one title I'd never guessed would ever exist or appear.
Yeah. The intended audience can't even pronounce it.
Yeah, what does it even mean? Because
it's like I don't.
One of those words that I'm like, I know how to use it in a sentence,
Pokemon, that
but I don't know how to describe what it means.
Well, in my own language, we have concierge, which is the same thing, but it's just basically a fancy word for janitor. It's just that's what we call the janitor in school. We call it the concierge. So that's. I think it's the same thing. It does mean
something fancier in the U.S. or at least in English in general. I'm not sure. I mean, maybe that's just because it sounds fancy.
Yeah. It says here it can also mean guardian, guard, warden, watcher, stuff like that.
Yeah, I have no idea.
But I don't know what the product is, so I don't know. I don't have any reference.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. I'm like, I don't know what this is supposed to be. But that explains, because I was skimming through it. I guess I must not have heard the stop motion part, because I was like, why does this look so weird? But now that I know it's stop motion, I'm like, oh, that makes perfect sense now. I used to watch a lot of stop motion animation for like Christmas films. So that makes more sense.
Yeah, stop motion is great.
Takes a lot of time. I respect that.
It's an old art form, like Wallace and Gromit.
Yeah.
Or the other one, Chicken Run. It's all from the same studio. They have perfected the art. And it's like you guys. I cannot do anything but respect that, because any other studio would know how much time it is compared to just 3D animating the whole thing.
I think I would lose patience so fast. There was a girl at my university that for her like film thesis or something, she did stop motion animation and like proving that the art's not dead. And I asked her how long her little, it was like 3-minute film was, and it was just like a round ball with eyes and some other things. And she goes, "Oh, it took the entire semester." And I was like, oh man. My Lord, just for that. And she was like, "Well, I kept messing up and then I would knock things over, so I had to start over." And I'm like, oh my heavens. But some of my favorite Christmas films are stop motion animation or claymation.
Claymation, yeah.
Yeah. So
that's very awesome.
Are you guys still up for playing a round of Kahoot or the trivia?
Forgot about that. Yes, I am.
Right. It's 10 questions. The trivia that I picked, or the questions that I picked out, is I don't think you've played it before, Geek. It was when Daniel and I had the last time that Joe, or the voice actor for Daruk and Yunobo, was on. We had a Breath of the Wild Goron themed quiz. So every question is about the Gorons of Breath of the Wild. Would you be interested in that? Fun?
Yeah, sure. I'm good with anything.
Have you ever played on Kahoot before?
On Kahoot? No.
Okay, I posted a link in the Discord chat.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm on full screen, so I didn't see that.
Well, I just now posted it, but you don't have to download anything. You don't have to really sign in or make a profile or anything. You can use your phone or a tablet or a shoe or whatever you have that has internet access, and then it's just the question, 10 questions, and you get about 20 seconds to answer each one. Again, they're all Breath of the Wild, Goron themed. Everyone in the chat will be able to play with us as well, that's watching on the live chat. And I went with this Goron themed one because I think it was one that not too many people played, because I think it was just Daniel and Joe that played it on that episode. I'm not really sure. But First Four Figures also has their Daruk statue that they just recently.
Yes, it looks so good.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm hoping.
Is it multiple choice, or do I have to type?
It's multiple choice.
Okay, cool. Then I can just use one.
I'm playing on my phone, so Jessie, can you post the pin?
Yes. It is. Trying to put it to where everyone should be able to see that's watching on chat. All right, so there it is. It's 707-8261.
Okay. Up.
Do I have to do anything, or will the questions just appear?
We're waiting on everyone. You're the only person that's in right now. Now everyone else is joining.
Oh, okay.
There's Geek, Natsu, whenever I can't speak. When everyone else joins in, when there's enough people, then I'll start it. And it's every question. Sometimes there's a joke answer, but there's 4 answers to each question. And what else is there? Oh, I need to post the link in the...
And it's timed, right?
Yes, it is timed. The faster you answer the question, so everyone can get the question right, but you get more points if you are the first to get it correct.
Oh, okay. Clear.
There we go.
Okay, I had to find the number again. Usually I do multiple screens whenever I have the podcast, but I'm trying to do everything on one screen now, and it is not working out too well. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people in. We will start in about 10 seconds, so everyone who wants to join in the last minute, please hurry up and do so. And then after this, we will answer all of your questions with the Zelda mailbag. And then we will... Oh, Daniel's there.
He is.
Yeah.
couple that were talking about like, I'd play, but then I beat everyone. I'm like, that's so rude, but also probably true. 'Cause I never win Kahoot. I think I came in second place.
He has played
time.
this one before, so he probably remembers it. And in case people are wondering, yes, my headphones are very, very messed up. They're literally taped together because they got stepped on right before the podcast, which is always fun. All right, I think that's everyone that's joining, so we can go ahead and start. Is everybody ready?
Yep.
Oh, and also, everyone playing, be sure to look at your screen, not the podcast, and play, because the podcast will be delayed by a few seconds. To whereas some people usually wait for us to read out the answers or read out the questions before they answer. But if they do that, then they're waiting an extra 10 seconds and they're going to lose. So play on your screen. Don't follow along with us, or else you just have no chance of winning. All right, we are starting now.
Okay.
Bronze of Breath of the Wild. 3, 2. What is the name of Daruk's ability? Daruk's defense, Daruk's shield, Daruk's protection, Daruk's guardian.
Yes.
Yay!
Actually,
Did everybody get it right? Nope. 2 people got it wrong. They said Daruk's defense and Daruk's shield. All right. The next question. Oh, let's see here. Oh, Natsu's on top. Decisive Lobster. Myers, Geek, and then Zebrowski. Question 2. Where does Link meet Yunobo? Abandoned North Mine, abandoned South Mine, abandoned East Mine, or Daniel's basement?
I knew it was abandoned mine, but I was like, I don't know which direction. I probably got it wrong.
I don't think I even remember which mine it is. I think it's...
Like one sounded right, but I was like, ooh. Oh, I did do it right. Yes.
Yeah.
Wow, it was pretty fast, but I was still not the first.
Some of these people are so fast.
Oh, there you are.
I'm like,
You
you
came
don't
in
know it
third
before
place.
we even look at the answers.
Yeah,
My
so
slow 35-year-old brain cannot handle it.
you you may have actually answered that one first, because you're only behind by 11 points, it looks like.
Oh, okay.
So, next question. Who is Link's companion up Death Mountain? Daruk, Yunobo, Daniel, Darunia.
I knew Daniel. It's Captain Bergerson.
Of course, it's Daniel. Come on.
Daniel, I didn't know the South Mine wasn't abandoned. I just knew it was an abandoned one. I don't know the specifics.
2 people guessed Daruk, and 7 guessed or answered Yunobo. I guess in a way, Daruk's always with you. So.
But he's not really with you until after you
now
defeat.
Dawn's in first. Myers in
Fire.
second. Geek, you're in third.
Woo.
Decisive Lobster in fourth, and Natsu fell down to fifth.
The answer
Question
is
4. Daruk's weapon is called what? Boulder Breaker, Bubble Crusher, Big Goron Sword,
shoot.
Stone Smasher.
I had a completely different name in my mind.
I think I got that one wrong. I clicked on it on first instinct, but I think I may have gotten it wrong.
Oh, I got it.
Boulder Breaker.
Okay.
Oh, I did get it right.
One person said Cobble Crusher.
I don't remember what I was thinking, but it was not listed. I was like, oh, I'm definitely wrong then.
Well, it's hard to say for sure because there are weapons that look a bit like his.
Yes.
Those are called Cobble Crushers, I think.
Yeah. And I think I think one of them's fake, and then the Big Goron Sword was just a joke answer because obviously Big
Yes.
Goron.
Yeah.
C. Myers is in
He's the
first.
Big Goron.
Geek, you moved to second. Don, you went back down to third. Natsu in fourth.
Oh no.
But you're not down by
Enjoy
much.
this while it lasts.
Maybe less than 100 points. So that's like a tenth of a second, basically.
I will just be happy if I get everything right.
Oh, same.
Question 5. Which food does Daruk give Link to eat? Prime rock roast, grilled rock roast, prime rock sirloin, Daniel's leftovers.
Oh, I was torn between two.
I think this was in Age of Clams.
Yeah.
I want to say I chose the right one, but
Remember,
I was torn. Dang it! I did
when-
choose the wrong one.
when we had
I
Joe
wasn't sure if
on,
it was sirloin or roast.
it was the prime rock roast, I think is the...
That was my instincts, but I was like, no, sirloin sounds more accurate.
Joe
No.
actually, he said that was his favorite scene because he thought it was the funniest scene to do.
It is a funny scene.
Oh, Dawn, you're back in first. Natsu in second. Xenia
Oh,
third.
there's
Tim
a little
Myers.
like yellow number behind the, or is that? Oh, that's the number of the question, right? Like there's a little 5.
Oh yeah, we did do 5 out of 10.
Oh, okay. I thought that was my placement for some weird reason.
No, I am actually in 5th now.
It doesn't
have,
actually show you where you are on the list. It just says you are on the podium.
Oh, right now
Mine-
you're in first
Oh,
place right now.
That means you're in 1st, 2nd, or 3rd.
Yeah,
it shows it.
mine is in Dutch.
It shows it on the.
Oh, that's fancy.
It should be on the actual podcast screen. If you have a screen open to look at it, you can see that you're in first, Natsu's in second, Xenia's third, C. Myers fourth, and Geek, you fell down to 5th.
I did, because I said sirloin.
6 of 10. When Breath of the Wild. Yeah, when did Breath of the Wild win Game of the
Oh,
Year at the Game
shoot.
Awards? 2017, 2018, 2019, Daniel's birthday.
I was like, logic. I answered slow, though.
Yeah, I wasn't too fast either.
Bonus fact on this one.
Yes.
The day they won it at the Game Awards was when the DLC was finally shown off and released for, what was it called?
The
The
Champions
the
Ballad?
Champions Ballad. Yes, that's
Champions
it.
Ballad. And then they shadow dropped it. They're like, oh, by the way, you can get it now. Whole
What if
room.
they didn't win Game of the Game of the Year that year? Would they still have announced it there on the podium?
That's why I wondered if they knew in advance.
Yeah, I think they do. They
Have to know. Because otherwise it'd be awkward. So we didn't win, but here's DLC.
right?
Yeah, I think sometimes they are told in advance because sometimes you have those people that call in from like a remote area to accept the award on screen or whatever. So I think they do tell them.
Oh, yeah.
Otherwise, it's like, why did I fly all the way across the world?
Yeah, that was a good year for Nintendo because they had Mario and Zelda both nominated. That must have been either way. Miyamoto wins, but for the
True.
director of the Zelda team and the director of the Mario team, they were like, okay, whoever wins is buying dinner. So next question. Wait, no. Okay, it didn't change at all. Dawn's still in first, Natsu second.
I'm still in 5th.
Question 7. Daruk's divine beast is named Vah-Ruta, Vah-Daniel, Vah-Rudania, Vah-Meadow.
Daniel.
Yeah, I moved up.
6 people chose Vah-Rudania, 2 people chose Vah-Ruta.
No.
Understandable.
And
Both with an R.
you
Yeah,
went up to 4th place.
I did.
Maybe you can come in the rankings. Got a couple questions
Maybe.
left. 8 of
I
10.
missed that one question.
What is Daruk's fear? Cat, Daniel, flower lady, dog.
We're all afraid of the flower lady.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a given.
She could defeat Calamity Ganon if she wanted.
Probably.
She was a little preoccupied, though.
If she can defeat Link, she can definitely defeat Calamity Ganon.
It was
I
also
think Link was just unprepared for that chaos. Like,
I would be.
I
too.
have bigger things to worry about than this. Why?
I wonder what she's going to do if they have her in the sequel. I wonder if she's going to do the same thing or if they should
She
have
just
it so
needs
the
to
enemies.
plant her garden outside of Hyrule Castle, and then when 𝗏𝗏 comes and steps on it, her rage will end it all.
Yeah, they. I think it would be
That sounds
funny
great.
if they had the way that she attacks you, like if just a a Goblin or a Lionel or something steps on it, she would attack them as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like how
Yeah,
you
the
can
same
get-
way Cuckoos also attack anything that attacks them.
Yeah.
Also,
Also,
need to get a herd of cuckoos too.
the scenes where we find out Daruk is afraid of dogs is also the scene where Nintendo teased everyone with petting dogs, which is now
That
what
better be a
everyone-
thing.
Yeah, everyone's
True,
asking for
yeah.
it in the sequel.
They even mentioned it. They're like, oh, we didn't know people wanted to pet dogs. It's like,
All right, Don, you're still in first.
Cool.
9 of 10. Yunobo is Daruk's pet Daniel, uncle, grandson, brother.
aren't they all brothers? There's a lot
one
not
I-
explained about them.
This one I actually guessed because I wasn't too sure. I
Yeah.
just know it's like they share some sort of blood connection, but
Yeah. I don't think I knew what it was either. I had to look it up on whatever Zelda wiki said.
It brings up some questions. It's like, well, who's the
Or maybe
son
it was
slash
the
father?
maybe it was the creating a champion book. I looked for it. Yeah, 8 people said grandson, 1 person said brother. Then who would be his direct son then? I don't know.
That's what I'm saying.
Bluto or that old guy, maybe. 'Cause
Yeah,
That'd be
he
I guess
was
that would
not.
make sense. The one that he has to.
He was born after, like, post Calamity.
Yeah.
The old guy.
Should
Man,
be,
100
yeah.
years. 100 years is such a long time.
Oh, Xenia moved up to second.
Unless you're
Geek,
Zora.
You're still in
And they're
fourth.
just around forever.
Last question. Where do the Gorons live? Daniel's Basement, Goron City, Goron Town, Goron Mountain. And this is in Breath of the Wild, not any of the other games.
Okay.
Wow, everyone answered
like,
that quick.
what?
8 people said Goron City, 1 person said Goron Mountain.
I missed that one question and I wasn't able to stay on the podium. But that's okay. Top 5.
All right, 3.
I was looking for Death Mountain in that, and then it
So
didn't
was
show
I,
up.
actually.
So I was, oh shoot.
Oh, Don, congratulations. You're first.
Hey,
Trivia,
Yeah.
you
thank
won.
you.
We have C. Myers in third with 8,569 points. Xenia in second with 8,609. And you in first with 9,274.
I guess my
Nice.
brain wasn't as slow as I thought.
No.
And I guess that is it. We can go to the Zelda mailbag now. So if anyone has any questions in the
Yay.
chat for us to answer, please just let us know. And Geek, there is from, I think the only one that I seen on Twitter was from Lourulian Historian. I put it in the
Okay.
Google Doc if you want to start by answering it.
Sure. So, Lourulian Historian asks, what are your thoughts on the identity / importance of the Zoeyi in the context of the games, and whether or not you've seen the leaks? Has your opinion on the subject changed at all? Which, just clarification, I have not seen the leaks. I know of them. I think I accidentally saw like one. It was like a picture of an enemy or something. But other than that, I have not seen anything. Thoughts on the identity and the importance. I want to know who they are, and I would like for them to be important in this, because as was talked about earlier, usually that doesn't happen with Zelda games. There's always a mysterious tribe, mysterious group, mysterious people, race, whatever, and then they're never talked about again. So to have a direct sequel, it's like, well, this can be addressed then, especially since their architecture was pretty prominent in that one area, Farron, I believe, in this Hyrule. So I would like for that stuff to get answered. And just by the looks of what we've seen of the trailers, it seems like they will be. Again, I have not seen any of the leaked artwork, so even if I had, I wouldn't speak to that. Just because I know some people still want to stay spoiler free. But yeah, I want to know their identity, and I do think and hope they will be very important in Breath of the Wild. So that's my thoughts on that.
Don, do you want to give your thoughts?
Yeah, sure. Well, as for the importance, I think they will be probably very important. I have seen the leaks, pretty much all of it. I couldn't resist learning more about the game.
Fair enough.
Yeah, sometimes I do. Like I still feel a little bit conflicted about it because it does influence your theories, but you cannot show it on your channel. At least I've chosen not to cover any of the leaks on my channel, just so I don't divide my audience between those who know and those who don't know. Because a lot of the majority does seem to be of the opinion like I don't want to get spoiled. So
Yeah,
that's
you also don't want Nintendo ninjas coming after you.
That too, yeah. I've thought about it for a while, and I was like, yeah, it's better this way. We can just wait for something official, and then I'll give my thoughts on it. As for the ZOEY, I think from what I'm predicting is that they will serve as a sort of link back to the past, and I don't mean like link as in the hero link, but like a connection to the ancient past. Because it's pretty obvious that in the era of Breath of the Wild, a lot of the core values that used to be very prominent have been lost and forgotten. Like the knowledge of the Triforce, for example. Nobody ever mentions the Triforce by name in the game, not even the royal family, who are normally pretty well in the loop about where it's about its existence and its whereabouts. But plus the fact that in a world that's been destroyed to this extent, which is a first for Hyrule that it's been this devastated, the Triforce would be a very good place to start to revert the damage. But no one ever brings it up as an option. Not the Sheikah from 10,000 years ago, not the King, not Zelda. So, and I think even creating a champion does state that that knowledge, that part of Hyrule's history has been lost in this era. So there has to be a sort of people who connect back to that ancient past that will reintroduce a lot of these principles back to the people alive today, like Zelda and Link. I think that will probably be their main goal, because we do see some of the signs that the ZOEY had an understanding of the virtues of courage, wisdom, power. We see it in their architecture, the symbolism they used. So I think they will serve as that connection back to those principles, the lost knowledge that no longer exists in this era.
Yeah.
So, Don, I posted a link to my Discord. In the Zelda mailbag section of it, there's a question that I think might come from the spoilers, and they have images. It may or may not be from the spoilers, I'm not really sure, but I think it might be a question that you would be interested in taking. And then there's another one that kind of directly
it says
went
I don't
with
have access to this link.
Okay, let me try again.
Do I have to join first, or?
Let me see.
Yeah, you probably have to send them an invite.
Yeah, I probably need an invite first, and then.
All right, it should have sent to you.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
It's from Keeper of Light. It's kind of a longer question with spoiler images below it with symbols.
Ooh. I will not look at spoiler image.
Yeah, thankfully they were nice enough to.
There are some symbols. Oh, this is that, like the whole question. Hey, podcast team, I have some questions and also theories. The first theory has become clear to me only recently. You see in the trailer that Link's look at the blood moon and he's standing in a ruin, or at a ruin. According to some analysis, it should be this place. Which place?
No, it doesn't say.
Am I missing a reference? Maybe should be at this place, but no ruins give us. Sorry, there's some grammatic. As a non-native speaker, I'm already struggling to read it.
No, I don't know what he's referring to either.
Yeah, it's the Akala Fortress, he says. Could be. I haven't seen the reference photos. I think there's some videos who've done a very excellent job of putting like every shot from the trailer to and like traveling to that almost exact location in Breath of the Wild. But I haven't seen all of them yet. But there are no such ruins in that place. I still think time travel and future play Woo. Because
He
even
can
if
correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Keeper of the Light is also not a native English speaker. If I remember
okay.
correctly, he's from Germany.
Yeah. Not bashing your language. I'm terrible at it too. So
No, English is hard. Okay, we make no sense.
Yes, he was the one with the
We don't.
But I think I know what he's going for. Like we see the Great Plateau, where the wall seems to be either refurbished or different, and apparently there's something about Akkala Citadel which is also different, not in ruins. So he thinks that time travel will play some sort of role. Maybe we should tackle that part first because there's more after that.
Yeah, he is the second thing.
Yeah, according to my information in the new trailer, I do believe some sort of time travel to a time before the reign of Hyrule. I mean, we all believe King Rome ruled the land, but before that, the Zonai ruled, and were driven by to the sky by the king ?
Interesting.
Yeah, I think we should probably tackle that part first because the second one is just a completely different theory altogether.
I think so.
Yeah.
To make mine quick, I think there will be some form of time travel, not just the time reversal mechanic that the game gives you the ability for, but the leak with one of the voice actors mentioned playing as one of Daruk's ancestors, and I think with Ganondorf in this game, we will see the original champions, like that whole story of how Ganondorf was originally sealed, and it'll be not just Daruk's ancestor, but ancestors of all the champions, or at least whatever group of champions were alive at that time. I think that's kind of how, if we get any time travel, it won't be really playable. There might be playable segments, but I think that'll mostly just be a cutscene showing it, and then it'll be the ancestors in the cutscene. As for actual time travel, going back to a time before Hyrule was Hyrule, that would be like pre-Skyward Sword, I guess. There's a lot of people that think that it will. I know Ziltek has a video that someone mentioned on last week's podcast where the symbol of the Auroras,
Ouroboros.
Ouroboros,
yeah,
yes.
Ouroboros.
Where it just keeps on repeating and cycling over and over again. And a lot of the details or descriptions in Japanese and in English for the game on different websites always mention like endless time or something happening again. They have that cyclic description to them as well. So I'm leaning towards that we might see something, but I don't know about going all the way back before Skyward Sword. I think it would just be cycling back to the beginning of when Ganondorf was sealed this final. But what are your thoughts, Don?
I agree with you. Mostly, it seems to me that a lot of the cutscenes where we see Link, or not even Link, but we just see places in Hyrule that are different, that are suddenly looking different. I think that can easily be chalked up to a cutscene, just a flashback of the ancient past. Obviously, someone's going to fill Link in on what happened back in that time. And there's like this explosion that you see, like all these malice parts flying away from the Blood Moon. I don't think it's coming from the Blood Moon, but it's like somewhere below it, but it's like a cinematic shot where you can see all those, which looks very similar to the one, to that one cutscene where Rome tells the story about what happened 100 years ago during their version of the calamity. So that could explain why the wall, because that's the same shot where you see the Great Plateau wall in a different state. Like it doesn't match at all with the one from Breath of the Wild. It's in a more pristine state. There's no snow, which is weird, unless it's simply a cutscene from that period of time. Which is great because I do want to see some of the stuff that happened back in the day. If there's actual time travel, I would assume it's going to be more something like the time shift crystals or time shift stones from Skyward Sword, where you can access certain ruins in a time when they were still. Because if it's just full on time travel, that would be kind of cheap in a way because they just did that with Age of Calamity. Like full-on time travel, like going back to the past and preventing something from happening before it happens. And I'm generally not a big fan of that, especially if they do it too many times, because that kind of eliminates all feeling of consequence. Like the sense of when someone's dead, they should be dead in a way. And for Ocarina of Time, it worked. And for Skyward Sword, it also worked fine, but not every Zelda game has to have time travel in order to fix things. Sometimes it's more awesome that they have to find a new way, a different way. Because if time travel is a possibility, why not just go back to 100 years before that, get the Master Sword again, come back, and fix it that way? Well, in fact, that's what Link does in Age of Calamity. He just goes to the other timeline and gets... Well, that's not entirely true, but the way he gets the Master Sword in that game is different than the way it was described in Breath of the Wild. He got it much later in Age of Calamity. So if time travel is always an option, it opens up so many plot holes. So I think it would be cooler just to have this little local bubble where you can experience one area in its prime time, like we saw with the Temple of Time in Twilight Princess. That was cool, and it made sense because it doesn't mess with anything because it's self-contained. It's just this one little area. Whereas if you just go on full like Back to the Future, I don't know, doesn't really work for me. But who knows? Maybe it does, and they make it work somehow.
I agree. I don't know if I could add any more to that. What about you, Geek?
Funny thing, a while back, I know there was a period of time where everyone was either 100% on the bandwagon of there's going to be time travel or 100% there better not be time travel. And I'm kind of glad it's mellowed out a lot. Because I was just thinking, I was in that boat of like, oh, I don't want to do time travel again. But thinking about it, I'm like, well, there probably has to be at least a little bit of showing us what was happening. So I do think there is the potential for time travel. I just hope that it's different, which knowing Nintendo and Zelda creators, they're going to make sure it's different. There's so much hype around this game. I can't imagine them playing it. I don't want to say playing it safe, but playing it easy, I guess, with this. They're going to try and make it new and different. That's how we got Breath of the Wild. Is they were like, which, I mean, yes, it harkens back to the first Zelda game, but that idea of like, this is new. We're breaking Zelda conventions that were established a few games in. I don't think I have much to add either. Just, definitely a possibility. And I hope if they do it, that it's just done well, which I'm pretty confident it would be done well.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think we're ready to go to the second part of...
let me see. That was... in the last trailer as well as in the newest one. Oh, in the last trailer as well as the newest one. That's the same thing. Or maybe they mean the first one. Even on pictures, you could see huge glowing symbols which are visible at night. Oh, those things, yeah. Those drawings on the surface of Hyrule. They illuminate as well as during the day, yeah. I suspect that these are clues which should guide Link to find the secret Megatami, or tears of the kingdom in the past. I don't know what Megatami means, but I'm guessing those are the little droplets that we see on the mural. 7 of them. Let's assume a symbol must be searched for by Link. Pictured is, for example, a Molduga. A Molduga. Link would know that he has to go to the desert. But in the map from Breath of the Wild, you only see the symbol which shows the place. Link then tears into the past and travels into the past to find exactly where the dungeon is, where you collect the tear. I paraphrased a little bit here and there, but
it's fine.
Well, yeah, let me know what you guys think first.
It's an interesting concept. I can't look at the images. I'm just choosing not to.
Are the images from the Are these the images from the leak or whatever?
No, well, they are. There is something in the leaks that kind of points to them in a way, but in both the last the 2021 teaser and in the last trailer, we see those glowing drawings on the surface of Hyrule, like all the way below, like these greenish things. It has a shape. I don't know exactly what the shape is. Some think it's the same figure on the mural. Others think it's something else. But
yeah, I think there's one that is there's different shapes that we see on the ground.
Yeah, exactly. And he thinks that they might be tied to dungeons, like those tiers are either located there or they give a clue as to where it's located, and then Link has to go to the past to collect it or something like that.
Interesting thought.
Yeah, that's all I could say on that, is that it's an interesting idea, a nice theory. I don't know if that. I don't know. I have honestly no idea. I haven't thought too much of what those giant outlines would be used for, so I can't really say anything on that one.
Yeah, they're probably there for a reason, but what that reason is, we don't know for sure right now. So yeah, interesting thought. That's all about it. That's about all I have to say about it.
All right. The next question. I think this one kind of is perfect for you because it mentions something that I think was in the scene from your last video that I was mentioning earlier. From Willem says, Game Over 𝗙𝗵𝗲, those flames in the cave scene of the trailer that look like the souls in Twilight Princess. Could it also be what we see in the shoot over Hateno village in the trailer? In the shot over Hateno village. All of the sparkles, could those be the souls as well? Because we don't really see any people in the trailer died, or maybe just some night effects. P.S. Keep up the good work. 70 days left and mysteries will be. Do you have any thoughts on these souls, or he kind of relates them to like Twilight Princess, how people disappear and you can see the.
I think it's possible. Some people in the comments have pointed out to me that it could also just be like the rendering, like the engine itself. Apparently when you move the camera from a distance in Breath of the Wild, there were also kind of like light flickerings in Hateno village, but you would expect them to see them in more places if that was the case. And I've tested it myself in Breath of the Wild. It's nowhere near as excessive as in the latest teaser. Like nowhere near. Like you can see a little bit of jittering, but not like these huge flashes that are so obviously there. And they also don't seem to happen near a light source, which is usually the reason in Breath of the Wild why you see that flickering. It's just a light source that's the anti-aliasing is just kind of messing up, and the lighting engine just doesn't know how to process it, and it just kind of bleeps in and out of existence. That's why you get that jittering effect. But this doesn't seem to be the same thing, at least not to me. So I think it could be tied to it, because that is one thing I mentioned in my video, is how you see those weird glowing trees in the underground shot, and then you see those souls, those flames next to it. And in Hateno, you can see like two weird shapes, they almost look like mushroom caps or something, and they glow a similar color as those trees on the ground. And that's also where those weird flickering lights happen to be. So maybe like the dark world or whatever this underground is expanding to above ground and drawing people into it. I think it's a pretty cool idea. There is one NPC we have seen, so we know they're not all dead. There's in one of the final shots right before the logo. If you pause it like right before, you can see a woman standing close to a cooking pot and a tent, and she's just camping there. She has a bun, she has her hair tied up in a bun. So we know there are still living people out there, at least in some parts of the story. But yeah, I would like to see more involvement from the people who inhabit this world, and they're not just chilling in their villages like last time, oblivious to the danger that's happening. I mean, this is Ganondorf. clearly doing something to Hyrule that's gonna catch attention, and I hope there will be a little bit more involvement and a more consequence for the people who live in this world too. So that's my answer.
I like it. I really like the idea of this the flames or the spirits that we see actually similar to how it was in Twilight Princess.
Yeah, they're like in a sort of transitional state where, because like people from the light can generally not merge with the dark. They either transform into demons all the way or into some sort of animal like Link does, but that's only because he's the hero and he's protected by by the Triforce or by something divine.
The Link to the
But
Past
most-
is funny. He turns into the rabbit.
Yeah, he's a rabbit in that one. So it's clear that people who live in the world of light cannot mingle with the darkness. But the Twilight was not like total darkness just yet. It was in the transition period. That's why it's called Twilight, of course.
Yeah.
So people kind of just turned into these temporary spirits. They couldn't hold their physical form anymore. But we don't know what would have happened if it merged, because from what I read, the original plan of Ganondorf in that game is to merge the Twilight and the Light world together and then create a proper Dark world. So what we saw was not actually the completed version of what he wanted just yet. So, and in A Link to the Past, he does, and there people seem to transform into demon creatures when they do, which is pretty dark.
Disturbing.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts, Geek? Or anything to add?
Not much. I, funny enough, had made a video a little bit back, Wandering with the Blue Flames, where it was one of those moments where I was like, I'm actually being creative for once. And it was before I watched anyone else's videos because I didn't want to be subconsciously influenced and be like, wait, I just stole an idea. And then I realized, nope, it had already been addressed like 1,000 times. But still, in the moment, it was creative. And I had that same thought of like, is it related to Twilight Princess? And then I had thought that they were probably dead spirits. And I went kind of dark and was like, maybe they harvested the souls that are in the luminous.
What?
Really dark. It would be really creepy. And then someone pointed out, they were like, oh, the champions are covered in those blue flames. I was like, how did I not pick up on that? That always happens to me when I try to get a theory video out fast. There's always, and people are always so nice about it right now. They're like, oh yeah, well there's that scene. And I'm like, that really obvious scene that I completely overlooked? Yeah, right. But yeah, I actually didn't notice the twinkling thing y'all are talking about. Now I need to go back and look. I'm like, what did I miss? Like, I'm trying to get better about really honing in on little things in trailers, and it is improving, but not a ton. So now I'm like, I need to go back. What is this twinkling I was missing? I just noticed these little like teepee looking things out in the distance from where it was looking at Hatena Village. So
yeah, those are the ones I meant. Some of them.
Oh, okay.
Some people call them mushrooms, but they could just as well be anything else because the resolution is so low.
Right.
It's hard to see. But in those initial days, a lot of people are going to draw similar conclusions. They see those little flames in the cave, and they're like, "Oh, Twilight Princess." It was one of the first things I tweeted out, but the twinkling stuff I didn't see myself either until other people started pointing it out.
I can't wait to go back and look. I'm like, I love when I miss things because I'm like, there's so much there. That's why it baffles me when people are like, oh, Nintendo's not giving us any information. I'm like, well, they are secretive for good reason, but they actually do give a lot of hints. Look at anyone's theory video. There's so much.
Absolutely.
Geek, do you want to take the final question?
Okay. There's a funny one that I kind of want to do, especially because I'm curious about y'all's answers.
We can do two, then.
Zoe had asked in the Discord mailbag, who do you think is depicted in the mural with the two figures joining hands? Wrong answers only.
Ooh.
Oh, wrong answers only?
Tingle and Groose.
Yes, Tingle.
I was thinking Tingle. It's the flower lady.
Mastermind. Oh, it's the flower lady.
It's the flower lady.
Yeah, Tingle wasn't in Breath of the Wild. That's true. Weird.
Yeah, his island though. Tingle Island.
Suspicious. Yeah, Tingle Island.
Yeah, so they've at least heard
Along
of
with
him.
his brothers ish.
Slaves.
Yeah,
Slaves.
really.
One of them isn't even his brother. His name's like Daniel or Chad or something like that. Like, they're all named weird, like Ankle and all that stuff, but then there's one that's just like something.
Oh yeah, David Jr.
Yeah, it's like he just literally kidnapped him and like, all right, you work
He's
for
like,
me
I
now.
want to leave. Kaden in chat says Flower Blight Ganon.
Flower Blight Ganon, yeah. I just happen to know his name because I did a video about or it was actually not even my theory, it was a fan theory video about the ghost ship and David Jr.'s father. There was this whole rabbit hole where David Jr.'s father apparently chased down the ghost ship and died or disappeared. It was super weird, but that's why I know his name, or else I wouldn't have known.
That's
And then
hilarious.
Tingle's just like, you belong to me now.
Yeah.
You'll never leave my island.
He washed up on Tingle Island and he just became a slave to Tingle. Yeah. He's a sinister dude. He was in prison in the beginning of the game.
It's true.
And you just set him free.
Yeah.
I guess it's a necessary evil so you can get the pieces of the Triforce.
In the chat, Caden says Aster is Tingle.
Ooh.
Aster is Tingle.
Yeah.
Aster was a Hylian, I think, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That was weird. Like Aster was part of this weird demon cult, like Ganon cult.
Yeah.
Like in the middle of the forest, just chanting. It was really, really weird.
I didn't like it. The fact that he went so far that even the Yiga clan was like, okay, dude.
Yeah.
Even we think you're gone a little crazy here.
Yeah, just chill out just a little bit. You don't have to take it so serious.
Well, the funniest thing to me about the Yiga clan is that they're worshipping something or someone they don't even know who it really is. They've never seen it. They don't know what its power is, how it relates to them in any way. They just
dangerous.
Yeah, they just said to themselves, well, the Hylians, we hate the Hylians. The Hylians hate Ganon, so we hate Ganon too.
They're essentially like teenagers. Rebel.
Yeah. Well,
I was not a rebellious teenager, so I can't relate, but still.
Well, the modern day Yiga anyway. The older ones back from 10,000 years ago probably knew, because that's when the calamity just happened. But the ones that live nowadays, for them, it's so long ago. Nobody even knows what Calamity Ganon really is. And when they finally find out in Age of Calamity, they're like, oh, no.
We need to reconsider some of our practices.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think they were... I think, a bit off topic, but the Yiga clan, their hideout, I think there's a specific reason that their hideout is located, and I think it has to do something with Ganondorf, and I think it'll be explained in Tears of the Kingdom, because they chose... Not only are they living in really harsh, dry desert, but they're also living dangerously next to what is probably the most fierce tribe of any race in Hyrule, and they're like right next door to it. If you wanted to hide out, you would think you'd go somewhere that was actually hidden away from everything instead of making it this really hard place for you. So I think that hole that's in what's the leader's name?
Koga?
Yeah.
Master Koga?
Yeah, Koga. I think there's an actual use for that giant hole that's in Koga's room, where you do the boss fight with him. I think there's an actual purpose for that, and that's why they chose that.
I agree.
Maybe it's a tunnel, something to go to one of the underground caves in Tears of the Kingdom, something.
It's very peculiar, that location.
Yeah.
Just the fact that they are hiding inside of an ancient archaeological Gerudo site. Because all the text inside their hideout is, at least the central chamber and that hole, it's all Gerudo text mostly. Find those old statues there. So they just took some sort of old archaeological site and just stole it, made it their home. But why is that hole there? Like, what were they doing? What was the purpose for it? Because it was already there, it seems. So maybe someone was digging for Ganondorf. Maybe someone who knew about the legends about him being sealed underground somewhere. Someone decided to go look for him. I don't know. It's very interesting.
That was always my thought. With since the first, at the time, sequel to Breath of the Wild trailer, whenever they first showed it off and Ganondorf was in the cave, I was like, well, the Yiga have this hideout that has a giant hole in the ground that could possibly lead to it. Maybe that was like their purpose of actually staying there, because otherwise, why would you choose a desert and be right next to like a really dangerous tribe? Giant, 8 feet tall women that could just beat you up. And
yeah,
a little bit tamer in this game, though.
Yeah.
they're
Jessica
still pretty jacked.
jokingly earlier said reward for double amount of Koroks is an even bigger poop. Minish in Tears of the Kingdom. What do you think?
Well, they were cut from the original plans.
In the artwork, they weren't necessarily Minish.
They were not
I
Minish.
think it was like a placeholder to be. So yeah.
They
I would
did
like
want
to
to
see
have
it.
like a tiny race at least. Not sure if it ties back to the Minish, because like you said in the artwork or the little demonstration they made,
Yeah.
they did not look like anthropomorphic mice, which the Minish are.
I think it would be cool if it was one of the things that you had in A Link Between Worlds. There's the whatever they're called in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's the Koroks that you. I would hate to have to find double the amount of Koroks again. I think everyone would be a little bit tired of
Please
that.
don't.
So I think having this other smaller creature that's known to hide around and stuff. So I think they could put Minish in there, have that work as a game mechanic.
Yeah, if they do though, I do think it's going to be very, very contained to one little area. Like, for example, one of the floating islands has a whole city of these tiny people, and at some point you learn a new power to shrink down and talk to them. But I don't see them implementing like shrinking down into the whole game, because that would double the size of Breath of the Wild's Hyrule.
Yeah.
Every blade of grass would be a tree, essentially.
Like,
I'm sorry, the Switch, I don't think it can handle it.
I don't think I can handle it.
No, that's another thing. So it will probably just be a small little place or self-contained little rock where they can live under, or an island, or.
That makes sense.
my dog is snoring.
No, my cat was growling at
Did
me.
you have
So
the final question?
wait, what?
I thought you said
I didn't
you
hear
had.
it. Cut off.
I said, do you have the final question? You said there was the funny question that you wanted to get to, and then that was.
Oh, I didn't even see the other one. Hold on. Coming back.
Or if there's one in the live chat, you can pick as well.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say there's probably a lot on the live chat. Scrolling. They worship bananas in Ganon. Fair enough. Now I'm missing it. Okay, I'm just gonna go back to the Discord. Rune Wolf says, "What kind of dungeons, quote unquote, do you think we will get in Tears of the Kingdom?" The speculation right now definitely seems to be that they're not going to be traditional, like here's your fire dungeon, here's your forest dungeon, here's your water dungeon, and possibly maybe not even recognizable at first as dungeons, but certainly more akin to what we remember with Zelda before Shrines and Divine Beasts. So I feel like I have a creative brain, but that's for like choreography and dance. But I don't have a specific idea. I just think they're going to be not I think Daniel mentioned this at one point in one of his videos, like they're not going to be recognizable at first as dungeons. They might not necessarily be like, go find these keys and open these doors. Here's this dungeon item, but they are going to be definitely a lot more expansive than what we got with the shrines or the divine beast. That's my thought. Though I do hope there's at least something water themed because I want to go underwater. But they are giving us caves and sky, so
Yeah, the option exists. So I could see it happening. I think that was one of the bigger complaints about Breath of the Wild back in the day. It's like, oh, why couldn't we swim underwater like in Twilight Princess?
yep.
But
There's always something.
yeah, it's always something.
I always had
Well, Breath of the Wild was a bold new step.
yeah.
Uh,
My theory with Breath of the Wild and it didn't have some of these things that fans wanted is because if you make Breath of the Wild and then you're going to be making Breath of the Wild 2, but you put absolutely everything in Breath of the Wild, then what can you possibly do that would be new for Breath of the Wild 2 or its sequel? So I thought they purposefully left out underwater exploration and stuff like that. That way they would have something to add to the sequel to make it feel like it's actually adding something new instead of just being Breath of the Wild again.
Yeah. It's either that or they just ran out of time because they already were struggling with the engine to begin with.
Yeah.
There's all these stories about them changing some of the values of gravity, and suddenly on the other side of the map, pots started floating. They had to find this. It was apparently a very delicate balance.
Yeah.
Because of the chemistry. And
so frustrating.
I remember one of the interviews they mentioned like it would be an apple that wouldn't roll the way that it was supposed to, so they would mess with the physics engine, and then all of a sudden you would see a log go flying across the map for no.
Yeah, it's a very. It was apparently a very very delicate process to get it all to work well together, and even now you still see some weird things happening. Some very creative people have been doing some pretty wacky stuff in Breath of the Wild's engine.
Yeah, I think Nintendo's seen some of that. Some of the stuff that people made, like the flying machines that you can make, stuff like that, and all the little tricks that you can do to get to places, and then Nintendo found ways to actually make those into actual mechanics, like we see with the flying machine that Link has in the trailer. Oh, well, fans can do this, so let's give them an actual thing and do that.
Yeah, fine. Here is a flying machine, an actual one, without breaking the engine.
Yeah.
It's but as for the dungeons itself, I'd assume they probably will be tied to the different races in some way, and I think they are very much going to be all about ancient ruins and ancient places that have been abandoned for a long time, because that seems to be a central theme of the new game. If anything, like leaks aside, even in the trailers, it seems to be all about these old locations that are no longer being used or have been forgotten. We have that giant cave in the first teaser, the reveal teaser.
Yep.
So I could see something like that. I do think it's going to be like Daniel speculates. I do think it's going to be different than we remember the old, because the physics and the movement that you have in Breath of the Wild, a lot of the dungeons as they are in other games like Twilight Princess, they would be completely broken by Link's new mobility.
Yeah.
You can no longer place a wall and say, like, you cannot reach this unless you cheat and just say, oh, for some reason, this wall is unclimbable, which they kind of did with the shrines, to be fair. But I think maybe they're going to focus a lot on verticality, for example, or some other ways. We haven't even seen probably like 10% of all the powers and abilities Link will have. There could be some sort of grapple beam that he has with the green arm. We've already seen a version of stasis, or not stasis. Yeah, well, also a little bit stasis, the time reversal thingy, but also a magnesis. So I'm sure that we have that weird mechanic where he like moves through a ceiling. So the possibilities are endless, and I think it would be a missed opportunity not to have proper dungeons this time with this kind of. With these kind of abilities, you can do crazy puzzles.
Yeah,
Which I also just realized today's the anniversary of Breath of the Wild.
Oh, it is.
And the
Nice.
Switch.
Oh yeah,
It's 6
yeah,
years.
it is.
That's,
6 years.
I can't believe I didn't spot that earlier.
Wait, that is right, right? 3-3?
Yeah, March 3rd.
Okay.
It's when
That's what I
and the
thought.
Switch came out.
My brain was like, wait, no, that's incorrect.
Happy
No, it
birthday,
is.
Breath of the
It's
Wild.
insane. It's
And the
insane.
Switch. So weird. I was still in college.
I love how every time Nintendo, I think ever since Twilight Princess came out, they've been saying that they want to be able to start making Zelda games faster and not make them last like 4, 5, 6 years in development. But each game ended up taking even longer than the previous. So like, even though they have like twice as many people working on Skyward Sword than Twilight Princess, or maybe 10 times more working on Breath of the Wild than Skyward Sword, it still takes even longer, despite them being like, yeah, we want to shorten the development cycle, but then it ends up being the longest in development each time. Like, I'm sure whenever
It
they
happens
first
when they have
thought,
big ideas.
yeah, I'm sure whenever they first thought about a sequel to Breath of the Wild, they were like, well, we already made half of this stuff with ideas and concepts that we didn't use for Breath of the Wild, so we already have the overworld and all the character models. The hardest thing was fixing the physics engine. That's perfect. So the next game should take 2 or 3 years, and then 6 years later, it's like, are we done yet?
Yeah. I don't know if COVID had any impact on it. Probably did, at least a little
Probably.
bit, but it would have still most likely been at least 4 years or 5 years, which is very long for a game based on the same assets, reusing a lot of the same assets.
Yeah.
So this game has to be massive, because
Yeah.
there's some people who are worried, or even flat out saying Breath of the Wild 2 Tears of the Kingdom will just be Breath of the Wild DLC. And I'm like, well, I don't know what kind of DLC you've been playing in the last decades, but
Yeah.
DLC, like, when has the Zelda team ever slacked off like that? They've always come with something
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Just look at Majora's Mask. Oh, we're gonna make a whole new game, but we only get to do it in 1 year. Challenge accepted. They just do it.
Totally fine.
So I have full confidence that this is going to be a huge, huge game.
That's always what I say too. When people come up with that, I'm like, have you seen Nintendo's work with Zelda?
Yeah.
I mean, we don't talk about the CDI games, but that was a whole other situation. I'm not a fan of Triforce Heroes, but a lot of people still love it. I'm like, I don't think they've really disappointed yet. Even if like a certain game isn't someone's cup of tea, if you will. Like, I prefer Wind Waker to Twilight Princess, but some people are the reverse. It's like, but they're both still excellent games. So that's always my answer. I've been told it's a cop-out answer, and I'm like, no, it's just experience. They know what they're doing.
Well, that's what makes the series so appealing in the first place, is that there's something for everyone. So whenever someone says this is the best Zelda game objectively or in any way, I'm like, no, that's not how it works.
It can't be.
For those who are interested, I just looked it up. Breath of the Wild's total size was like 13.4 gigabytes, and then the DLC was like 2 to 3 gigabytes. But with Tears of the Kingdom, it's 18.4 gigabytes. So it's, from the start, 5 more gigabytes than the Switch. The original Breath of the Wild was. And it's probably even more than that, because they probably have an even better type of data crunch or whatever.
Yeah, data compression.
Yeah, that's it.
And it's not being made for Switch and Wii U. It's just the Switch this time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that too, for sure. They've had time to perfect this engine even more now.
Yeah, I wonder what aside from Zelda, what type of game they could use it for. It would be weird seeing a Mario something.
Pokemon!
Pokemon could use some help.
Yeah, with the open world stuff for sure.
Alright, I think that's everything, guys. Thank you so much for coming on, Don. No, it was the first time I think you and I have done anything. I think we may have been on someone else's video before, but I think it's the first time that we have I cannot talk. I think it's the first time that we have ever actually done something together. So
Yeah.
thank you for coming on.
First time we've interacted one on two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And thank you.
And I watch both of your stuff frequently, so it's nice to finally actually talk to you guys.
Yeah,
It's really awesome.
whenever I first mentioned your name to Geek, I was like, "Hey, what do you think about Monster Maze coming on?" He was like, "Oh, I like his channel.
Yes.
I've seen him comment on a couple of my things before." So, yeah.
Yeah, I love the Zelda community, the creator community on YouTube so much. I like to watch everyone's stuff and see what everyone is coming up with, and it's just so much fun. It's one of the best communities out there.
Yes.
Like,
One of like
introduce you
the
to
only
the
drama-free
Pokemon.
ones, or mostly drama-free, from my understanding.
Yeah.
It's like the Pokemon community. The joke I always hear every time there's a Pokemon Direct is the only people that hate. The only people that hate the Pokemon Direct more than everyone else is the Pokemon fans. I don't know. I can't even think.
I've heard something to that degree. It's like no one hates the Pokemon Directs more than the Pokemon fans themselves.
Yes, that's it. I couldn't think of the way that it's supposed to be worded.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, there's similar sayings for like Star Wars. Like nobody hates Star Wars more than Star Wars fans.
Yes.
I've heard that from my own husband, in fact. He's like, I love Star Wars, but I hate this, 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 and this. And I'm like,
I remember
all right.
the trees in the last Pokemon game. Everyone was complaining about it. Or not the last ones. It was Sword and Shield, I think. Was that the one everyone was complaining
Sword
about
and
the trees?
Shield.
Sword and Shield.
Yeah, that one had a tree issue.
Yeah, everyone was complaining
did
about the trees.
Did get criticized quite a lot. I do remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, every community has its toxicity or its drama, but with the Zelda community, it's stunning how drama-free it is, given the fact that we're all bringing up ideas that we oftentimes cannot even prove indefinitely. We're just making up stuff that we think is the case, because Nintendo leaves a lot of stuff kind of in the middle or up to interpretation, and everyone just listens to you and they give you feedback. I've had plenty of times where I'm just flat out wrong and someone's like, hey, actually there's this thing that you missed, it actually says this and this. It's like, oh cool, well, I've learned something new, thank you.
Yeah.
Usually that's how it goes on my channel, at least, and it's rare for me to get a really snarky comment, and if I do, I either ignore it or I just say something like, sure man.
Yeah.
I don't think oh, sorry, finish. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh no, I just wanted to was gonna say I rarely interact with negativity. I have like once or twice, and then I realized these people will never change their mind anyway.
Oh
so
yeah.
Why bother? Why waste my time?
Yeah,
it's a comment section.
I started where I won't necessarily ignore the rude comments, because I'll go through, and even if it is rude, I'll still give it a heart. But I think that's like an insult to the people being rude anyways, because they want to get a negative reaction out of you, but you just give them a like or something, and they're like, no, that's not
like, what?
Yeah.
That's like someone cursing at you in the street and just yelling back, yeah man, I love you too.
Exactly.
You.
So is there anything sorry?
Oh, I was going to say, like, the only thing I sometimes get a little bit heated about it is like when, for example, with the recent leaks, people downplay other people's emotions about it. So it's like, the leaks don't contain spoilers at all, doesn't even reveal anything about the story.
Yeah.
It's like, well, have some empathy, because what may not be a leak to you could be a huge leak to someone else. Like even something as simple as a location or an outfit could be something where someone is genuinely disappointed they didn't find that out in the game themselves. And this art book was not supposed to be out in the open yet. It's information that was, at the end of the day, no matter how you look at it, it was obtained illegally.
Mm-hmm.
So, and if I choose not to cover it, it's not because I'm, trying to be Nintendo's best friend or something. It's just, a combination of multiple factors. A, I don't want to alienate parts of my audience, and B, I don't want Nintendo ninjas crawling all over me and keeping an eye on my channel.
The
Oh
ninjas
yeah,
are
there's
real.
been people that are saying like, "Oh, Nintendo probably intentionally leaked this," and I'm like, "Do you know Nintendo?
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
pretty sure they didn't." Or like, I'm not on Twitter usually unless I'm like promoting my own stuff, and I just happen to come across Bandit's thread about he was like, "I didn't know choosing to not cover the leaks would be so divisive," and for some reason I decided to go through it. And it was just screenshot after screenshot about like how terrible he was for not covering it, and all these Zelda content creators are losing a big audience and all that. And there was just one response, that's what we brought up, which was like, did they ever consider maybe they don't want their channel deleted or something?
Yeah.
And that could be a factor, but it's true. You don't want to alienate people who are like, no, I don't want to know anything. I mean, yeah, you could put something in the beginning saying this contains stuff about the leaks, but again, if nothing else, the safety of your content of Nintendo did not intend to leak that. That was not, yeah. It's just funny how up in arms people get. It's like, then you go look at it.
Yeah, create a channel, go cover the leaks to its full
Then
extent.
you do it. Or the one that baffles me too is they're like, oh, I'm not going to trust any of your theories now because I know you've seen it. I'm like, don't you think these creators are smart enough to not make a theory about something they've seen or that involves something they've seen?
Yeah,
They're going to avoid that.
It's going to be a little bit more difficult to avoid that knowledge and make sure you don't use it as hindsight or anything or like prior knowledge, but it's still doable. I have 3 videos planned right now that are all able to circumvent the leaks totally free from it. And so it is possible. It's just that I don't want to cover it myself. And I don't know, sometimes everything has to be a freaking discussion with these people. It's just because I was very reasonable in my announcement about it. I was like, hey, I totally understand why some of you might be disappointed about this. Because, you know, if I was watching my favorite Zelda creator and I had seen the leaks, I would want to know too what their thoughts are about it. And I've created a space on my Discord where the leaks can be discussed because people will talk about it anyway. And it's on the internet now. It's public domain. Yeah. There's no stopping that anymore. So I felt like I was very reasonable about it. But still, there were some people who were like, oh, this is laughable. And you guys are just kissing up to Nintendo and stuff
There's
like
no
that.
pleasing some people. I think some people just like to be angry. And I'm like, that's not a fun way to live. That would stress me out. What are you doing?
Same here. Yeah. So that's only one of a few things where I can sometimes get a little bit heated because it's also representative of the community itself.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't fire back to that kind of behavior, then it's just gonna become normalized. Same thing with covering the leaks in general. I felt like you're only drawing more attention to everyone around you in a way. But I don't blame anyone looking at the leaks. I don't blame anyone who wants to cover them. If you want to take that risk or if that makes you happy, do whatever you want. But don't force others to interact with these leaks because that's not fair.
Yep.
So I have your channel pulled up here for everyone to check out, Monster Maze. What video would you recommend everyone to watch if they have not been to your channel yet? You have the new video came out a couple of weeks ago or almost 2 weeks ago, The Underworld, 5 discoveries and a bunch of others. Which one would you recommend someone to watch for the first time at your channel?
I think The Underworld and the one about the Great Plateau, which was made before the trailer. The other 2 are a little bit more like in the moment, like right after the last trailer came out. So there's a couple of mistakes in there, and the editing is not as proficient as I normally do. There's even like a very big editing mistakes where I just show something. I'm like, look at the glow on these towers, and it's just a blank screen. For some reason, it stopped 1 frame too early, so it just doesn't show anything. But I do highlight with 2 little circles, so you just see a blank screen with 2 little highlights, which is very uncommon for me. Normally, I would tear my hair out, but it was such a last-minute video I made it in one single day, which normally my videos take at least 2 weeks to make, not one day. So I forgave myself for that. But yeah, the Underworld version and the video about the Great Plateau, like Tears of the Kingdom's equivalent of the Great Plateau, those two are more representative of what I do.
All right. Is there anything people could possibly look forward to? A little hint at whatever you're working on now? You mentioned that you have 3 videos in the work.
Yeah, it's 3 videos and they all tie into each other. It all started with a video researching the Sacred Realm, like what it is, how it works, because that's never been a very clear concept, at least not to me. And it seems to differ per game. There's a lot of contradictory scenes and information about what the Sacred Realm exactly is. Sometimes it's depicted as a completely separate dimension. Other times it's like the Sacred Realm that is called Hyrule. It's like, oh, so Hyrule is the Sacred Realm now? And then in A Link Between Worlds, they visit the Sacred Realm, and it's just some sort of place up in the sky. In A Link to the Past, it was the Dark World, of course. So I just wanted to see if I could find all the facts, put them in one giant pile, and see if I can figure it out, just what the Sacred Realm actually is supposed to be. Also look at the Japanese texts. So I've been talking to people who are more knowledgeable about Japanese culture and the language and the little nuances that they have in their language. But from that video, a whole new theory kind of spawned, which was about the Triforce, why it wasn't in Breath of the Wild. And then I have another little video that also spawned from that, which is about the spirit world or purgatory or whatever you want to call it, the afterlife dimension in Breath of the Wild. That will probably be quite a short video, maybe 10 minutes. But the other 2 are going to be big videos, at least, I guess, close to 20, somewhere between 20 or 30 minutes, at least.
Nice.
The other one is coming out next. The first one is coming out next week, which is about the Triforce, and then I will do the Spirit World one, and then after that, I will put out my huge Sacred Realm video, because that requires a lot of explanation, because you're basically challenging years and years and years of Zelda lore in a way.
Yeah.
Because I'm 8 pages into the first video, so it's likely going to be around 25 minutes for sure. But yeah, that's what I'm... Unless, of course, something Tears of the Kingdom related comes out between then, I will, of course, cover that. So
yeah,
that
I
might
think,
change my schedule, yeah.
These months leading up to Tears of the Kingdom, I think Nintendo is going to be kind of like what they did with Age of Calamity. If anyone remembers, they would put out like a 10-second trailer like almost every other day or something like that, just to show off characters or whatever. I think they might do something similar to that. And then, of course, I think they're going to have some kind of Nintendo-focused, or not Nintendo, Zelda-focused presentation, show off like any more amiibo that we may end up getting. And, of course, what those amiibo will actually do in the game as well. I think it's obvious Tears of the Kingdom will have its own Switch. So they have to have a trailer showing that off as well, and I think they'll end up doing all around the same time.
We might see something at PAX too, which I will be attending for the first time visiting the US. It's going to be fun.
Welcome in advance.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it, and I get to meet some of my creator friends.
Nice.
Last Nintendo Bandit. Conrad I've already met a couple of times in real life. Going to see Celtic for the first time. JIWANI or HMK is going to be there. And I think a couple of guys from Zelda Universe too. So, yeah. I hope we get something. Sorry?
What place were you mentioning again?
PAX. PAX East in Boston. So that's... it's confirmed that Nintendo has a booth there separate from Pokemon. They have a Pokemon booth, and then they have the Nintendo booth, and it's one of the bigger ones that they have. I think it's among the biggest booths that year. So a lot of people are hoping, or at least yeah, I guess hoping that there is something Tears of the Kingdom related there. If of course there's got to be probably merch, but
Yeah.
gameplay demo.
I would hope they have taken trailers and stuff to like Comic-Con and stuff like that before, so I think having a trailer or something Tears of the Kingdom related to talk about at PAX would be not too hard to imagine.
Yeah.
A demo would be amazing.
We'll see. A demo would be crazy.
Yeah.
I didn't fly for 9 hours for nothing.
Peak, where could people find you if they're interested in checking out some videos for you? And do you have a video that you're working on or something that you would like them to check out over on your channel?
Yeah, I mean, most that come here you already know. I'm the Geek Apprentice. It's my name, not in real life, not legally. And I have a YouTube
Maybe
channel.
one day.
I have Instagram and Twitter too for like promotion purposes. But yeah, I actually have a video premiering today. I like to do ranking videos because I know I like those as background sometimes listening to them. So I'm like, I should make those because that's what I like watching too. And it's just my personal ranking of what the 10 best songs in The Legend of Zelda are. Obviously very subjective. And I gave myself boundaries, like they couldn't be from the same game. Otherwise I would have like entirely Wind Waker and Ocarina of Time on there. So that's premiering in an hour, I think, 3 p.m. And I might be live streaming today. The plan was to live stream, but then my husband's schedule got changed and he's like, oh, I might be home earlier. And I'm like, I prefer to stream when no one's home. So we'll see. If not, I will be streaming Sunday. I just got Jackbox Party Pack 3. So that should be fun. I mostly talk about Zelda and Animal Crossing, but every now and again I throw other stuff out there.
Can I make a request?
Yes.
Do you do requests? I would love to see. I would love to see you covering the differences between Ocarina of Time 3D and the original Ocarina of Time, because I know from your content that you are not a huge fan of Ocarina of Time 3D. you don't seem to like what they've done, the changes and stuff.
It's still subjective too.
Well, I do agree with a lot of it. But I'm curious what your deeper thoughts on it are.
I actually considered doing that, but I always worried it would come across as just a negative Nancy.
That's there used to be a recurring segment whenever Daniel was on the podcast because he absolutely hates the changes to Majora's Mask 3D. So
which those are even worse changes, I think.
Anytime like the Zelda mailbag started, I would just make up a name or something. I would be like, blah 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 wants to know what your thoughts on Majora's Mask 3D are. And then he would go on like a 15-minute rant, just being like, well, they changed this and it sucks and they had too much freedom and 𝗷𝗛𝗆 needs to punch him in the face.
Eyeballs.
To me, there's definitely some stuff that I do like about the chip.
Yes.
Like the environments are much more full and more detailed. True. If I go into the laboratory, for example, the one at Lake Hylia, you compare it to the original, it's like just an empty room with one aquarium or something. And in the new one, it's like you see all these little details and research notes. And I really like that. But at the same time, they also messed with some of my favorite stuff, like the bottom of the well, which is suddenly way too not creepy anymore.
Yeah, that again looks like blue-red Jello.
Yeah. And I think the worst offender...
that was not the stuff of my nightmares at 3 years old. That is just Jello with a face.
Jello with a face, yeah. And I think probably the biggest offender, at least to me, for Ocarina of Time 3D was the Ganon fight, which on the original was way darker and more like atmospheric. You could barely even see Ganon. You only saw this silhouette against the lightning, which would sometimes illuminate parts of his face. I remember as a kid, I actually didn't even know what he looked like. Even though he was right in front of me, it still felt like, oh, what is this guy? And in the new version, they just put like a giant spotlight on him and you can see every detail of his face, which totally takes away the menacing feeling of this huge monster that is standing in front of you. That was...
Today don't understand the horror we dealt with.
Yeah, that darkness was there for a reason. That specific lighting was chosen in the original for a reason. You shouldn't mess with that. So they took a few liberties. Also, some of Link's animations as an animator, I'm like, he feels
like the way he
too
runs.
floaty. Yeah,
That-
he feels
yes.
too floaty.
It looks weird. And I'm like, oh. I'll have to
And you're-
consider that then, because if I can make it not sound like total negative Nancy and point out the things that are good, like you mentioned, the details, and equipping the boots. That is nice.
Oh,
That is
yes.
very nice.
That's that just completely changes the whole water temple. It makes it into a fun experience.
True.
At least to me.
Yeah.
The change.
I got frustrated the last time I played through it, but that's because I'm terrible at video games. Again, youngest of 3.
The curse of the youngest sibling. Yeah.
One of the
Yes.
changes that has absolutely no effect on the actual gameplay or anything really is that I like that you can find the Book of Medora just lying in people's houses. I think there's 2 or 3 in the game.
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
I think there's one in, I want to say in Lon Lon Ranch, in the house there. There's one in the house that has the heart piece in it that you need to use the owl to get to, I think.
Hmm.
Oh,
There's like a...
I know what you're talking
It's
about.
the green book with the Chica symbol on it. It's just lying on the desk. And seeing as A Link to the Past is supposed to take place sometime after Ocarina of Time, and I liked that little connection that they made. Okay, this is why this book is like during Ocarina of Time's era. It may have been common, but A Link to the Past, it has to be like protected or something. There's an actual purpose.
Yeah. There's definitely some little lore details. I've made theories that are partially impossible if it weren't for the 3D version. Like I just based it on things I saw in the environments in the 3D version, because you have the No Clip website and the
Yeah.
Ocarina of Time 3D and Majora's Mask 3D. Ocarina more. It's very well done. You can actually go through all the environments with the camera and just see everything in detail without having to actually boot up an emulator yourself and play it.
Yeah, it's a great website. It's got a bunch of other games on the GameCube and Wii Zelda games. I used actually on my last video about Snow Peak Ruins. I used No Clip to get some footage from that as well.
Yeah, it works great. It's a great tool.
All right, well,
Nice.
everyone, thank you for coming and joining us for these past 2 hours in the chat. We had fun answering your questions. I hope everybody had fun playing the Triforce, the Triforce trivia with us. Congrats to Don, or also known as Monster Maze, for winning his very first competition. I would love to see you against Daniel, see how that would go. And
I think I will lose, but I've played him with I've played against him with another podcast trivia type of quiz.
Yeah, I've seen those.
And he intimidated. I didn't play against him. I'm sorry. I saw him play against other people, and I have to play him sometime in the future too, because we did go through to the next round, and I'm scared.
This is on Triforce Trend's channel, correct?
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Yeah,
He
they have
knows
like the
so
tag,
much.
or it's like a tag team thing or a team challenge.
Yeah, because he's with Hyrule Gamer.
Yeah.
But he remembers like the smallest details that they just don't stick with me. I have to go to Google to get a reminder, and he just has it right there.
Yep.
Yeah, I think what he does in his free time when he's not supposed to be playing Zelda is he's just still playing Zelda. So because he's
That
always
explains
recording like extra footage and stuff, but then he also plays the games for the live streams. But then there's also like when he's just playing them for fun. So yeah, he's crazy with Zelda knowledge. I thought I knew a lot of Zelda stuff, but then I would always find myself sending him questions like, "What does this do?" or "Where was this at?"
Although to be fair, you did stump him a couple times, and all of us. There was one Triforce trivia that was like, how many keys are in the fire temple of Ocarina at a time? And I was like, what? I don't know.
If you happen to have made a video yourself about that very subject, because I did a whole video about the water temple, and I had to look up, and I even made a graph of all the keys in every dungeon, how many there were, which one had the most. I think I also did the same thing for the amount of floors for each Ocarina dungeon. So, you know, it just coincidentally I covered that very subject, so that will stick with me. But
yeah,
a lot of things, there were also questions where I feel like I should have known that, but I just didn't. It just didn't come to me. Like a location, and it's like, well, where is this picture taken? And it's so obviously the little crawl hole that you go into before inside the Isle of the Songs in Skyward Sword, which I actually captured footage for not like a week before that. And I just didn't remember. It just didn't come to me.
That's why I love that last game, or that last, it's not a dungeon, whatever it is, in Banjo-Kazooie, because the last thing you do before fighting Gruntilda is Grunty's fiery furnace, and it's trivia about the game you just played.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. It'll play like a little 2-second clip and be like, which world has this theme song? And you're like, wait, what?
That's crazy. Oh, thank you, by the way, Caden.
Caden's
The
not
stream
going
isn't
to
going to.
Caden. I hope I said that correct.
Caden.
Yeah.
That's how I always pronounce it when I've seen him. I haven't been corrected yet.
Yeah, so I guess, Hayden, we're going to be ending it now, because this probably could go on forever, but there's a few other things that I need to get to, and I know
I do need to eat
food.
Yeah,
So,
same here. Still have to have dinner.
but yes,
I have to have lunch.
thank you so much for coming on again. Everyone needs to, I think I posted a link earlier in the chat. I think it's also linked in the title and the description, but posting another link now for people that want to go check out Monster Maze's channel. It's got very, very, very high production quality, so please go check it out. And yeah, everyone have a great day, or in your case, a great night. And thank you again.
Yeah, thanks so much. It's my pleasure. And I hope we can maybe do something in the future.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
This was a lot of fun having you.
Cool. Glad to hear. Same here.
Bye, everybody.